He's using a lot less Vaseline. He still likes the short shorts. Does that make him killer? He's got a killer bod, but is he a killer? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Soap Lore, the official gathering place for newbies, novices, and OG diehard fans of the golden age of primetime. I'm your host, Jed, viewing and reviewing one of the soapiest, sudsiest primetime storylines of 1984 or 1985. It's debatable. But whether you're new to this or true to this, sit back and enjoy. Tell the kids it's time to play outside or out of sight. Tell Babe no questions, suggestions, or concerns for the next 25 to 35 minutes. Everyone else in earshot, please be cool, quiet, or you will be kicked out because we are watching our stories. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Soap Lore. Hello, gorgeous. Welcome back to another fun-filled edition of Soap Lore, the quiet edition. You might notice a couple of changes here thanks to some of our listeners and me listening back. We're going to drop that intro music down super low, not only because it's just hella loud for no reason, but also because my voice is being a little bit of a treacherous heifer. I have lost my voice over the past week. It is in flux. So we're just going to do what we can do. It tends to ebb and flow. But that's not going to stop me because we got to get through this. We are back on the West Coast doing the absolute most today on Falcon Crest. Dare I say it? I think this is the Florida Man episode. It's the bad boy episode. Yeah, I think we'll go with that. We got to see how Lance is navigating this very horrible and very bad, no good day. How Florida Man is flipping over a new leaf. Maybe not. Chase has painted himself into a corner and Richard is on one. Just like his arch nemesis, our good sister perm rock goddess herself, Miss Angela. So go ahead and pour yourself up something bubbly and bright as we jump into Season 4, Episode 15 of Falcon Crest, Vicious Circle. Vicious Circle. The thing you just can't keep walking away from. People who make up to break up. Diets you start and stop and stutter step through. There's many different instances of this, but today's, I didn't quite get the theme, but it didn't matter because it was such a good episode. So if you're wondering why I sound the way I do, I've explained that I have lost my voice and I need to keep it real cute and real quiet this whole episode. Sort of like one of my favorite podcasts who I'm not going to name on this show because I ain't getting no coin, but I listen to it to fall asleep. And they all sort of talk like this. So I thought, why not challenge myself to keep it cute, keep it low, and see how long we can keep up this charade because I don't want to sound like Urkel or a 12-year-old boy going through puberty. I'm a full-grown millennial woman and I need some respect on my name. One of my favorite traditions is on Thanksgiving. Now, Thanksgiving is not one of my favorite holidays. Not for any particular reason, I just feel like there's not a lot going on. In the summer, 4th of July, at least here in the States, things are open, there's fireworks, there's a lot of fanfare. Thanksgiving seems to be a day to be at home with your loved ones, which I love. The best part of Thanksgiving is, of course, leftovers and hanging out with relatives and friends who are in town who you haven't seen in a while. But a new tradition that I started with my family is that every Thanksgiving, we go to a movie or we stay home and we watch a movie. And if we stay home, we make sure that we watch a whodunit. I like to kind of string it along. So we might have, a light breakfast or kikiing. We might have a little scavenger hunt that morning. Then we'll move on to the main course. Everyone has a good time, watch your football, whatever. Then we finish up with a whodunit. We play board games. It's just a way to kind of make the day an activity. I love whodunits. I love a good mystery. I love a suspenseful movie, but being a mother, I have to kind of be careful with that thing. As my kids are older, we can watch things that are a little more colorful, if you will. But I love a good whodunit. One of the things I like even more than a whodunit is I didn't do it. It wasn't me. This is what this episode is. Lance Cumson woke up on an ordinary day, expecting to have a less than extraordinary day filled with the mundane, maybe a sprinkle of Lorraine, maybe taking over another empire, who knows. He didn't expect what he got. To refresh your memory, when last we left, Lance Cumson had been kidnapped. He was the most impeccable, most cooperative hostage ever in a 1980s soap opera. He walked willingly into a gas station. He waited patiently, and once he was released, he calmly, coolly, and collectively put himself inside of his little two-seater. He drove to the nearest payphone, and he called the authorities. He did all the things he needed to do correctly, at least on paper. Unbeknownst to him, there was a bigger storyline at play. His ex, Melissa Agretti, was getting good and sick and tired of him and his grandmama playing with her inheritance. So she tells Florida man Joel McCarthy, hey, get rid of them, or something to that effect. I'm not going to rewind. She says something to that effect. And he's like, bet. She says, if you make it stick, I'll give you 50,000 American dollars. So he did his best. And at the top of this episode, we see Lance Cumson in the clink, fighting for his life, but totally unaware of what the situation is at hand. I'm going to be honest with you, there's a whole lot of yelling at the top of this episode. Lance gets on the telephone and he calls his home, expecting sympathy, expecting help, and he's relieved when he hears Craig Reardon, aka the Manimal, pick up the phone. Oh, thank God. Craig, please come quick. I've been arrested. I need help. Craig, sneering on the other side of the telephone, says, well, that's rich, Lance. Don't you even want to know how your grandmother's doing? Lance is a bit confused by this statement because why would his grandmother be in duress? Perhaps it's because he's been arrested. Perhaps it's because he hasn't reached out to her all day. So Lance, of course, like a good grandson, says, of course, what's wrong? Well, by this time, the perm rod goddess herself comes bursting into the house. Now, she is pissed because she believes that her grandson, her heir apparent, tried to run her off the road, tried to run her over in a two-seater nonetheless. No dignity at all. Wasn't even a Rolls Royce or anything. It's a damn factory car. Can you believe it? So she sees Reardon on the phone. She says, Manimal, who's that? The Manimal says, it's your grandson. She reaches for the phone, snatches it away, and says, oh, well. Who do we have here? If it isn't my treacherous, traitorous, trifling grandson. I hope you rot in jail. Click. Lance is, of course, on the other end of the line, shocked. The heir apparent is like, what the fuck? What had happened? So he starts yelling at the cops like, can someone please fill me in? The sheriff, who is completely recovered from his kidney or whatever his mid-abdomen surgery it was, is totally all like, well, you're a murderer. You tried to murder your grandma. And he's like, dude, I fight with that old lady. We make up to break up. We break up to make up. It is quite the vicious circle. I'm never going to try to kill her. I'm ignoring her. Now, by all intents and purposes, this is a likely story considering who Lance is. Or is it? This is that whole back and forth thing. Why are we so, as humans, we're so much more likely to believe the unbelievable than the likely story? Sure, everyone in the valley knows that Angela is a hard pill to crack. She's a hard pill to swallow. Everyone knows that Lance is her heir apparent and they have fallen out. But has he ever done anything really violent? No, unless you're baby oil. He loves slathering baby oil and kickboxing in the wind. But he ain't never really hurt anybody other than Joel, which they bring up ad nauseum on this episode, and I'm totally here for it. But ultimately, this episode, you get two sides of that coin. People who think Lance Cumson, who doesn't have a record, is capable of male dare. And then those who are like, I mean, he could, but I don't really think he did. One thing for certain, two things for sure. People are always going to want to know about murder an infidelity. And on this case, an attempted murder will have to do, since Julia Cumson is locked up, no one's been chopped up or shot up in the valley in a while. So Lance Cumson is big news. Now here's the thing, everybody has an opinion about it. We see bad girl Meli Mel in her kitchen. Now it's unclear to me whether or not this is her kitchen at the Agretti Heritage Home, or if this is she and Cole's new house. I don't think they bought a house. I forget. Those of you watching in real time, let me know. She feels away because in her mind, she said, hey, I want you to scare them into giving me back my inheritance. That's not what she said. She called him poor. She called him cracked out. She said, I know poor people need money. You look like you need money, Joel. Why don't you handle this problem for me? And if you make it stick, I'll give you $50,000. He was content to take 30. Now, all of a sudden, she's all in her feelings. She's all upset about it. This is that soap tax thing. They forget with the quickness. You basically said mail there. You didn't say it, but you said it. There's a million ways to say things, okay? Well, sure enough, Joel shows up in the kitchen. As she's listening to the radio, he clicks it off in his leather gloves. Efficient, right? And he's like, yo, where's my shmoney? Job's done. And she's like, you creeped out, cracked out, freaked out, freak. I didn't say run her off the road. What the heck is wrong with you? He's like, but you kind of did. And either way, I did what I need to do. Your boy's in jail. He's not going to be the heir apparent anymore. Run me my money. She got the audacity to say, you know what, Joel? Not give this. I sound like an old lady. I sound like my grandma. I'll not give it to you. Me and Vidalia, the Onion Queen, are on the same bloodline in this stuff. No, she's like, I should not give this to you. He's like, that would be really, really dumb. Doesn't matter anyway. She hands him the money, which is already counted out in an envelope. I think maybe this is that whole thing. I know when some people go to the store, they go to a bazaar or a swap meet or a garage sale, half the fun is haggling. I'm not a great haggler. I'm really not. I'll talk to you about coupons. I'll talk to you about a discount, but I'm not going to go back and forth with you like that. I don't have it in me. I feel like Melissa's doing that. She's got to haggle just a little bit, just as she feels good about the fact that Angela was almost run off. Well, Joel tells her, it doesn't matter. Thank you so much. Appreciate the money. Melissa just has to give one more off. Don't snort it all up your nose, something like that. Because no, I'm done with that. I'm about to settle down with Terry. Now, first, Meli Mel cackles, and then she gets serious. Now, I don't know why. We have all come to the conclusion, am I right or am I right, that Terry, she is somewhat of an enigma. She is a bad girl in her deeds, but she don't have the sand. She didn't have the grit to carry out bad lifestyles. You know what I'm saying? Maybe she was a call girl. I wouldn't even say that makes you a bad person at all. It's not a bad girl. It doesn't mean you enjoy it. You need some money at some point in your life. But she's not great at seducing. She's not great at blackmailing. She's not great at getting rid of coked out Florida men who have been wreaking havoc on her personal life. None of those are her forte, but for whatever reason, it makes Melissa just a little bit nervous. Okay, last but not least, Maggie, Richard, and his stepdaughter Lorraine get into it over Lance. So I had forgotten, sort of, that Maggie is a news reporter, quote unquote, on Richard's radio station. I couldn't understand why they were arguing over dropping this story. Then I remembered he's not with the paper. The radio still is going to put it out there quicker. Richard doesn't give a damn about the details of this case. Lance Cumson has been arrested for almost murdering Angela. Put it out there, period. Now Maggie's like, now hold on now, Rich. Now come on now. You know this don't sound right. This doesn't even seem like something he would do. Now Lorraine is puppy love, so she's out of the mix. Richard's like, it does sound like something he did do. Maggie's like, no, it sounds like something he could do. I'm not going to go out there willy-nilly saying that he did it. I just refuse to do it. Why her loyalties are to him, I don't know, but maybe it's just her integrity. She can't understand why this needs to go out so hot and heavy. She understands, actually. She knows that Richard has a huge vendetta against Lance, and anything he can do to separate Lance and his little Lorraine poo, that's what he's going to do. They finally come to an agreement because they are friends. They seem to be one of the few friendships on the shows that matter. And he's like, fine, Mags, you approach this any way you see fit. I still think what I think. And Lorraine is like, forget you, Daddy. I'm gonna go with the Lance. She ends up moving into the hotel, motel, Holiday Inn with Lance. At this portion of the show, it is a very important lesson in the power of suggestion and the power of seduction. Now, Lance and Lorraine are gonna stick by each other. She is his one source of just kind of steadfast belief. He needs to hear it because honestly, he's walking into this blind. He doesn't know what happened. This scene was a little bit sad. A little bit, not really. Lance is released from jail after one of his lower rung guys shows up from the globe and they release him from jail. He goes straight to Falcon Crest where he's arguing and carrying on downstairs with Chow Lee and the manimal. When Angela comes down, she's like, you and your little tramp need to get up out of my house. You tried to kill me, get out. And Lance is like, grandmother, you know I didn't do this. This is weird. Like, why would I do this all of a sudden? Now, good old whimsical Emma's like, Mama, this doesn't sound right. You know this don't sound like Lance. Angela doesn't care. Perm rock God. She's had to dismiss her fro. She's had to ruffle her own feathers. He's out. You are no longer my heir apparent. You out. This is an interesting... I don't know why she chooses to die on this hill because he's already the runner of the globe. He's the CEO of the globe. He's doing well. He doesn't really care about being at the house. He hasn't asked for any money. It's kind of a fool's errand. It's a moot point at this time to keep enforcing this inheritance that you have kicked him in and out of time and time again. No one else on this show stays on better kicked out terms than Lance Cumson. And let's be honest, he's a lot of things. He is a little bit of a sleazeball. He is a bed hopper. He is a playboy. He is tall, dark, and handsome. He is some sort of martial arts expert, or at least novice. He's a lot of things, but is he a murderer? No, he talks cash crazy to anybody poorer than him. But I feel like he has really matured. This last season and a half, he's really kind of coming to his own. His acting jobs are better. He's using a lot less Vaseline. He still likes the short shorts. Does that make him killer? He's got a killer bod, but is he a killer? He ain't no killer. Just because his mama went cuckoo don't mean he's gonna do the same thing. But Angela's pride won't allow her to see it. So much so that in her office, he almost breaks out another can of whoop ass. And see, he's trying to change. Every time you try to turn a new leaf, you try to walk away from that old life. He don't want to be a thug anymore. He doesn't want to be a, God, I can't remember the polo. What's the little alligator logo? Alligator logo, mid-80s villain type dude. He's trying to be a respectable man. But y'all keep calling him back. The manimal wants to get buck in his face. And I said to the manimal, you know horses, you know stallions, you know bad girls, sort of. What you don't know is kung fu. What you don't know is martial arts. What you don't know is how to duck the renegade's tomahawk kick. That's what you don't know. But the manimal's feeling froggy. So in my mind, I have reimagined this entire scene. They're all in Angela's office. It's about to go down. She's like, get out, Lance. And the manimal pushes Lance just a little too hard. So, he jumps into renegade stance. He squats. He's got his fist up. He's ready to kick ass. The manimal is like, oh, word, it's like that? He's getting ready to turn into some sort of white belly amphibian or some sort of hawk. I'm thinking to myself, I wonder what he's going to morph into so that he can whoop this 6'3" kung fu renegade god. What are you going to do? Nothing, because you know what happens? Chow Lee intercedes. Chow Lee, his surrogate father, steps into the middle of the fight and nothing happens. He has to get kicked out. Chow Lee is beside himself after the fact. He's not really. He's stoic like that. He might have felt away, maybe he didn't. But Angela implies that it was a difficult task for him because he done raised this boy and taught him all these moves. Now, I wanted to see it play out. I wanted to see the manimal's Lego hair skidded all across Angela's office room floor, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. But another Lego-haired baddie had other plans this episode. Okay, party people, It is worth mentioning that on this episode, there are not one, not two, but three very soapy, very sudsy sex scenes, which is why we tell the cheering to play outside. One of them is going on between Melissa and her boo thing, her main squeeze, her heart's desire, Mr. Cole Lego Hair, Gioberti. Now, you know Lego Hair is actually fine, but I just needed to say that. Everyone's hair on the show is fabulous. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. So they're in the throes, y'all. They're really just, oh my God, I love you. They're making sweet, passionate, nighttime, primetime love. When the phone rings, do you know? Do you understand what I'm about to tell you? Melissa, bad girl Meli Mel, actually answers the freaking phone. A woman of her sexual prowess, it really surprises me that she would take calls in the minute of action. Listen, we don't need to be graphic on this show, but I'm a woman, so it's like that's also a little bit different. If I were a man and someone took a phone call in the middle of my performance, I would feel a way. I don't think Cole was petty enough, quite frankly. He does pull up his baby blue drawers and get out of bed. It is the manimal telling her that damn horse he's obsessed with is feeling better. Now, damn it, we always say this could have been an email. That could have been an email. That could have been a telegraph. That could have been a phone call the next morning. Why are you playing on my phone in the middle of the night during sexy time? It's irrelevant. They're doing all the things. They get into this scuffle. Cole gets up and he's like, I can't freaking believe you took that call. She's like, well, what do you want from me? Somehow the argument goes to her shouting, I saved your life. He's like, what? What are you talking about? She's like, I made up that whole thing about the champagne bottles exploding. I paid someone at Falcon Crest to say that, and you didn't get on the plane. I saved your life. Ooh. So Fiends. Is that the correct thing to say? I don't see where that has any weight in this whole program. I don't know why you're talking about that right now, but that's what she wants to bring up. He gets pissed and he leaves the house. Now, luckily for them, they make up a little bit later and we have a one-word, one-scene cameo from Baby Joseph where they have made it with each other. He's like, I love you, you're right. I would have lost everything had it not been for you. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I just love you so much. I wanted an opportunity. Never mind the fact that the gorgeous Shania and Linda went kerplunk in that plane. That's irrelevant. It's all about them at this moment. And they're in love and they're together. Now, I want to talk very briefly about a new budding romance that is as quickly doused as it is a lit flame. Our girl Julia still thinks that the Philibus, wrong soap. The Nazi child she thinks he's a psychiatrist who's going to help her. He has given her freedom. He has given her the run of the house. She's able to move freely throughout his residence. And unbeknownst to her, Spirits has caught feelings. How could he not? Julia is a gorgeous woman. She's got the new little chin length bob with the bangs. She messed around and put up an updo. He got her the flyest dress he could find. It is black and gold lame one shoulder because how is a woman supposed to eat a meal otherwise? Duh. I can't really read the room here. And I haven't seen episode 16, but it feels like there might be a little bit of friendly competition between the Nazi child and Spirits. Spirits is head over heels in love with her. He's watching her as she combs her hair. He's watching her do all the things. He bought her the flyest dress. He just likes to stand back and look at her. He's got that look in his eye like, oh my, like he's watching the sun for the first time. Now, by the end of the show, you know what it is. That cost him his job and possibly his life. Nazi child's like, you're too close. I don't know if you really want to be in this like this. I think it's time to let you go. No, I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to put you on another assignment. We will see on episode 16, although I do think it's a little early in the season to get rid of the dirt dudes. Nazi child does not seem like a guy who gets his hands dirty to me. Speaking of assignments, do you remember our good buddy Ben? Chase's bestie from way back when in his nom days? Well, he comes up this episode. Let's rewind a little bit. With all the rigmarole going on around Lance and this potential hit that he took out on Angela via himself, there's a lot of confusion. There's a bunch of kerfluffles popping up left and right. So this affords Chase a unique opportunity. Yes, he just came back from Europe, but now he needs to go to New York because a couple of things have come to light. Now, Ben is allegedly dead. I say allegedly because this is a soap opera. We saw no body, we saw no roughage, we saw nothing. A woman came into a cafe and told Chase that Ben was dead. Needless to say, Chase is all in his feelings and he's a little bit paranoid. He's looking over his shoulder, but he's on the phone with the FAA guy and they're going over Ben's credentials. Long story short, it doesn't look like Ben was affiliated with anybody, which I think we discussed a couple episodes back. He just sort of showed up. He has money. I say he has money because he has his equipment, but he didn't really seem to be reporting back to anybody. It seemed like a very vague mission. Dare I say it, I think Ben might have been a plant. That doesn't really matter because Chase now needs to figure out how to conduct his day-to-day life and all of the responsibility that withholds and lie to his wife so that he can get over to the East Coast to take care of more business. Now, Maggie's nobody's fool. She knows something is up. She sees the way her aviator Adonis is slinking around the house. Something is off. But Maggie's not one to pry. If he wants to do whatever he wants to do, fine. Do it. Well, that doesn't turn out so hot for him. He ends up going and he talks to the aviator guy. And a phone call comes through the office. Chase picks up the phone and it is a warning. It is a dire warning. Back up, because it's on. If you don't want to end up dead like your homeboy Ben, you better back up. And he's like, oh my God, who is this? It's irrelevant. He's already lying to everyone. I don't know what happens. We'll find out on episode 16 or later, most likely. Another person on this episode who unfortunately has the just responsibility, if you will, to lie to Maggie is her long lost, recently found birth mother. I like sweet little Scarlett. Scarlett is a nice lady. She don't bother nobody. I feel horrible that Angela is stringing her along because here's the thing. Addiction is, although there is a fallout, obviously, people are hurt by your actions, you're not actually committing a crime against anyone else. It seems extremely devious for Angela to meddle in this woman's affairs. This woman was on the straight and narrow. She'd been that way for 2 years. But no. So on this episode, Angela is Angela. She needs to make sure things are falling into place. And for whatever reason, she is locked in on her good play niece, Maggie. Who would want smoke with Maggie? I'm sure I don't know. But on this episode, Scarlett has visited Tuscany Downs more times than a little bit. That itch is being scratched and god dang it, she can't stop it. So one day, she saunters into Maggie's bedroom right before Maggie leaves for work. And she says, hey daughter, I need some nail polish. My hands are looking mad raggedy. You got any? Maggie's like, oh, absolutely. I got plenty. Got anything you need here? Matter of fact, why don't you do your nails in my room? But as she lifts the tray out of her bedside drawer, there is a pretty woman box filled with pearls or something. And Maggie's like, oh, mother, every time I take these out of storage, I have to figure out a way to hide them. And her mom plays along like, yes, sweetie, I used to do the same thing with my jewelry, only I would forget where I put them. And they, unfortunately, this isn't the case. So Scarlett goes back to Tuscany Downs, and lo and behold it, when you know it, one of her running buddies from back in the day shows up. And she's like, hey girl, where you been? Maggie's like, oh girl, you know I gave this up 2 years ago and I'm back now, baby. And her friend's like, girl, I've been looking for you all over. You gonna win some money? And I wanted her mom to say, you bet your sweet arse I am. But she didn't say that. I'm sorry, gambling's not funny. It's a little funny. A little funny. So, a long story short, Mommy Dearest, aka Scarlett, ends up swiping Maggie's pearls to put down a sure thing. She thinks it's a sure thing because Angela Channing called her, but the truth is it's not a sure thing. It's a sure thing in the wrong direction. You see, the manimal in one of his Animal Kingdom homeboys knew that this horse could burst out the gate real good, but he always ended up in last. They knew that. Angela heard this and she's like, oh, perfect. Let me go ahead and manipulate this woman with this information. So Maggie's mother, Scarlett, of course, puts the bet down for the wrong horse, or so she thinks. And after she does it, she's like, God, I'm such a scumbag. She has a full-on come to Jesus moment. Meanwhile, her homegirl is like, girl, shut up. You messing up my juju. I need to make sure I win this here money. Before it's all said and done, the horse actually wins, and Mommy Dearest is able to put the money back. Now, if she does or she doesn't, I really don't know. It seems like she was disgusted with herself for gambling off something that was such a beautiful thing. She's like, I'm risking a relationship with my daughter for this. It sucks. So we'll see how that pans out. Two last things. We got to get to the bad boys of this episode because Lance is on the prowl and Joel is not. So Lance and Lorraine in our second sensual, sudsy, sexual scene. They are in the hotel, motel, Holiday Inn making out frantically. Lance gets a call from the Globe like, yo, you need to come down here. We've got some recent developments. And he's like, oh, yeah. But he's so into Lorraine as she peppers his hairy man chest with kisses that he's like, you know what, screw it. They got the wrong number. I'll be in when I be in. This is only noteworthy because I feel like anytime Lance has a scene, it's usually there's a lot of pomp and circumstance around it. This was the most subdued. They were in bed as if they were an old married couple. Of course, she's this puppy love girl, sick with love, ready and willing to do whatever he wants, but he actually reciprocates it. I don't know if Lorraine is long term. I feel like this sets her up to get blown up at some point. But for here and now, Lorraine seems to be the real deal. Now, she helps him throughout this episode. Emma came up with a theory after she told her mama that she was blind as a bat. She needed her eyes checked. She's like, well, who would benefit from this the most? It's probably one of Lance's enemy or even Melissa she would benefit. Angela don't want to admit that's right, but she kind of does. So by the end of the episode, Lance is back at the Globe. He's in the office with Lorraine and a couple other people, and they're going over his very long list of enemies. And they're deciding if any of them would make a move of this caliber on him. He has been kidnapped. His car was stolen, used to almost kill his grandmother, and then returned to him. He's clearly being framed. By episode's end, they determined that, you know what, it could be Terry or it could be Melissa, and maybe they use that scumbag Joel to handle it. Before we write off Florida Man as the scumbag of this episode, I want to go back a little bit. So after the money with Melissa, he does indeed go over to Terry's. According to him, he kicked that monkey off his back a couple weeks back. He's not worried about them drugs. He's focused on her. And he shows up and he's kind of got on an outfit that looks like Usher in his roller skating era. It's like this gray top, and I think the arms are leather, but like the elbows have this weird pad. It looks good. He looks wonderful. He's like, hey, look at me, Terry. Meanwhile, Terry, the not-so-bad girl, is freaking out because Richard has not delivered those divorce papers to her yet. She is still waiting because the clock is ticking. With every passing day, she's almost going to be Mrs. Coked Out Florida 1985 again. She doesn't want that. But in the same breath, he's familiar. He's talking right. He seems to be coherent. And dare I say it, he's kind of turning her on a little bit. So Terry thinks to herself, ain't no reason why I can't enjoy this while I got it, right? Joel thinks I want him. I want him to think I want him. So one day she saunters in front of him in her purple bathing suit with nylon pantyhose. I'm very curious. I wonder if anyone ever actually swam in nylons. Seems like a lot of work. Just let it hang. She walks over to him, and before you know it, he wakes up. He's like taking a nap or something, and he sees her, and he's like, God, you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful, Terry. I just love you so much. And she sees, if not for but a brief moment, the old Joel. They share a memory. They're each other's first loves, and she's like, there's just nothing like it. It's the most amazing thing ever. So she gone and dibbles and dabbles, and they get it on right there on the couch. It would appear, by all intents and purposes, that they continue to get it on quite regularly until one dark and stormy night when they're waiting for a pizza with anchovies and pepperonis to be delivered. Terry is in a faux Versace robe. Joel is in street clothes. Rat-a-tat-tat at the door. She goes to answer it. Now, he looks in her purse. I don't know if he's looking for money. I don't know what he's looking for. But he finds a pistola. Terry answers the door. And it's Richard looking all creepy, talking about one pepperoni pizza and a divorce decree. And there's some weirdo behind him. So Richard lets himself in. Terry follows him. And they approach Joel. Joel, the jig is up. Terry is divorced from you. You better leave her alone. Now, I don't know. We don't know as the audience if Joel was going to take this offer or not, because Richard very quickly says, and I have some of your old running buddies in my car. The blah, blah, blahs. Basically, some people he stole some money from. He hears this and alarms go off. Oh no, they're going to shoot me dead. So, of course, he whips out that pistol and he's like, Richard, you and Terry can get it. You better let me out of here. I'm not doing this. Richard's like, hey. No need to get hasty. I can send you to rehab and you don't have to go to these mafioso types. You can just do your time, get clean, but you gotta leave Terry alone. Now, Joel is weighing his options. He's like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll do that. That sounds pretty good. It sounds better than dying. Richard's like, yeah, I agree. Terry's like, yeah, I agree too. But not before Joel is like, hey, you were just stringing me along. Let's be honest, since Lance stopped tapping that, she ain't really got no other options. And she's not a bad girl. I can't reiterate that enough. She fooled us. So Richard says, hey, you can leave, you can go to rehab, and Joel walks willingly out of the house. Unbeknownst to him, Lance has got a target on his back, like, he's that dude. So once Richard and Joel are in the limousine in the back of the car, they're having a conversation, chatter, chit. Joel's like, dude, don't drop me off with those weirdos. I get the feeling you're going to be weird about it. Don't do it. Richard's like, why should I not? He goes, Joel tells him, because I have information about something. I just need to know I'm going to go to rehab and not with those fools. Richard says, I'm listening. Joel proceeds to tell him that Marissa Agretti hired him to try to kill Lance or his grandmother so that she could be shoved back into the will. She gave him $50,000. That's it, that's all. Now Richard is like, this is a likely story, but instead of giving anyone else the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to believe you on this, Joel. Richard gets on the horn. He calls the rehab center. Hey, I got a pal coming. Take real good care of him. But as he exits the car, it's dramatic. It's dark. He's at the airport. Rain is drizzling down on his face. And we know that for the first time in this episode, in this series, Joel McCarthy, I believe, is a suspect. It's the first time anyone's looked at him twice. So now we get to see how all of this plays out. End scene. What do you think, Soap Fiends? I think I didn't do it is one of the best things ever because you have to go through all these mazes. You have to convince people who hate you to be on your side. This is very exciting for me. Per usual for Falcon Crest, I think we have less than 10 episodes left, God willing. I think we have like 9. I can't wait to see how this all pans out. Although I've grown a little bit more attached to Florida Man, I'm not ready to see his departure. All right, guys, that's it. That's all for this episode. I've got to figure out how we're going to play this. I think we're going to have to go hard and fast with several episodes in a row. But ultimately, I'm fiending for some Knots Landing. We're going to jump back into our Knots Landing realness season opener. Let's do a few episodes and get season 3 on the road. In the meantime, in between time, for God's sakes, make a fuss if someone snatches you out of your car. Make a fuss, pull hair, get some DNA, because nobody's going to believe you're, oh, I willingly walked into a gas station and patiently waited until the robber came back and dropped off my car. But it's a likely story, even if it's the truth. Stay moisturized, stay hydrated, mind your business, and keep all of your drama on TV.